not you can't really get up on a Sunday and go, oh, these are just what my thoughts and my opinion. Like, you got to prep something that's.
Yeah.
You got to bring stuff. Are we ready to record?
We're ready.
Are we recording now,
Let's
Chris?
do this.
Is it just recording?
He's always been recording.
All right, so we just you weren't recording that whole time though, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, I was waiting. I thought we were waiting for you. That's why I was just.
I've been recording the whole time, mate.
No, you haven't.
Yes.
I've been waiting for you to finish your.
Oh.
He kept looking over, going.
He's been waiting for us to conclude our dissertation.
I was waiting for you. I was just like having a conversation.
Man.
Oh, sorry, man.
Eschatological
I was like, I
position.
can't wait for him to segue this into
So
like the
loud,
actual
Chris.
conversation we're having.
Oh, I honestly
so
thought
loud.
you were
You're so
figuring something
yelling.
out still.
You're yelling so loud right now.
Sorry.
Are you yelling at Simo? Are you
gee.
angry with Simo?
Sorry.
No, it's 'cause you
Chris
guys
is
are
just
so loud.
is yelling at me. Hey, welcome to the C3 Victory podcast. Maybe prayer is a struggle for you. Maybe you're in a slump, or maybe you just want to grow and expand your prayer life. This is a conversation for you. We get into it. We share our personal stories all about prayer. It's a great conversation, and our hope is that you get a lot out of it and it's really beneficial. All right, here we are on the pod.
Here we
Podcast episode 12, I believe.
Yeah.
Episode 12.
This is episode 12.
That's great.
It's more than I thought I feel. I don't know what you guys feel like. But Jess, welcome to the podcast.
Producer Jess.
Or do you prefer Geraldine?
It sounds weird if you call me Geraldine.
Sorry. Yeah,
but no,
just
I don't mind actually. I really like my name, so whatever.
I didn't mean to make that awkward. I'm just used to calling. I'm just trying to introduce you to the pod.
Hi, my name is
For those
Geraldine.
who don't, surely everyone knows Jess.
Yeah.
Because every
Jess
time
is
you
fun.
preach, you get the most views on YouTube.
That's hilarious.
So
but
you're popular,
apparently-
and that's why we've got you on the pod. We just need to boost our viewers, and we did.
How's this going? We get the popular voice in. Let's get the popular voice.
how can we?
The one that people want.
I find that very hard to believe, but I'm very happy to be here.
It's good to have you here. And Pastor Nate,
Always,
It's good to be
Welcome.
back.
always
back.
good.
Although people are, there's a 1 week break.
There was a 1 week break.
1 week break. I
1
think.
week, yeah.
Is that how long it is? I don't know. It feels
We had
like we
an
haven't recorded
extension
in
of
a
a
while.
week.
We haven't done a recording for
No.
a little while, so that might feel strange.
And normally
for
I'm
us,
on the
but
other side of the cameras watching,
Yeah.
making sure you guys don't say anything stupid.
You're like,
Which, no, you
Or
can't
I
say
don't
that.
get too much more like intense face.
Yes, Nate's intense face.
Jess is there like,
Smile.
we're gonna have some fun,
Yeah,
but we want to talk about prayer today.
yeah, good.
Prayer is a huge topic, obviously, and we're going to scratch the surface, but it's incredibly important, I think. And you're the expert on prayer. Jess. We're just talking about this earlier.
That's hilarious.
We don't think there's an expert, right?
No,
But
well, Jesus.
Jesus, obviously,
Jesus is the
yes.
expert, guys.
Come on. But if we kind of want to do something a little bit different, where we want to try and kick off the conversation about certain things with kind of almost starting point being a question.
Great.
awesome.
And got some other questions in there, but the base question around prayer is how do I, if someone, which I'm trying to think of someone out there that might be listening to the podcast or
Yep.
watching online or whatever, what questions are they asking about prayer? And so that I think they might be asking the question like my prayer life, how do I get better at prayer? How do I grow in my prayer life? They might feel stagnant at the moment or stuck, or they want to,
Yep.
does my prayer life, can it grow into new aspects with God? Stuff like that. So how can I make my prayer life
It's a great question.
better, make it grow? Better feels a bit, I don't like that word, better.
Yeah,
It's not
better.
like there's bad
We
and
were
better
all-
with
yeah.
prayers there. I don't know.
Well,
You can pray bad prayers though, right?
maybe. Selfish
Theological.
prayers, I don't know.
As long as you're talking to God, that's pretty helpful. That's pretty handy.
That is a good start.
Probably
But
depends who you're praying to.
depends who you're praying to. Yeah, we're talking about
Let's pray to God today, guys.
we're talking about Yahweh.
Yahweh, the only God.
The only God, three in
The
one.
only
Father,
capital
Son,
G
the Holy
God,
Spirit.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
For those that don't know, Jess is also our comms and marketing manager. Checks all of our emails. for
Checking the grammar, checking the grammar, checking the spelling,
Yeah, you're
capital
pretty
G,
hard.
Full
guys.
stop, however, comma.
Exclamation mark.
Sorry.
But to kick off the question, kick off the conversation, I guess. I think you're really good at prayer, Jess.
Do you?
And I say that.
What makes
I
you
think
say
of you
that?
like when I think of the people like here, and I've known you for a long, long time.
Yep.
And I feel like you're really close to God, and you have really good prayers with God, and you know Him pretty well. And so I feel like you've got some really good insight into the conversation about prayer. Even if it's just your personal
Yeah.
experience, I think it's going to really help people. But I'm curious, and I want to kick it off with you and say, like,
Right.
how, like, your prayer life, how do you feel like your prayer life has evolved over the years
Oh, great question.
from being, like a new believer to where you are now?
Yeah, I grew up in a church. Well, I mean, when I say I grew up in a church, I went to a church when I was younger that was very traditional. And so the way that you prayed in this traditional church was you would have a written prayer that was very like, this is what you say every time, and you'd say the same prayers every week. And so I didn't actually ever really realize that prayer was anything but the rote learned prayers that you said every Sunday when you were at church. And, you know, occasionally you might hear somebody say a prayer that was outside that, but it was pretty rare. And I used to have a competition with myself and the people that were next to me about who would be able to say, like, I would think that I was so good if I could say the whole prayer without fumbling or without
looking,
stumbling.
like from memory?
Yeah, from memory. Like, you could probably ask me some of the things like the Nicene Creed or something. I'd probably be able to give it to you.
Oh, what's
a
the
lot of
Nicene
it.
Creed?
Yeah, no, I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But if you started me off, I could probably get going, I reckon.
I believe in one God.
Is that how it actually starts?
Good start.
It is.
Good start.
I'm pretty sure it is. We have a similar
That's that Hillsong.
historical church background.
Yeah.
That's a
No, I
Fraser
believe
song,
in
isn't
one
it?
God, Father the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen, that kind of a thing. Yeah. So you could
at
just imagine that, which, you know, there's some real power in that.
There is. I
Like,
think there
even the
is.
fact that I can remember that now, many years, I was going to say how many years, but that was a lot of years. Let's not go there. That's a pretty powerful tool. And so I think that you can really understand that it's not a bad thing to have those rote prayers, but what I didn't have was a real relationship with God that was mine, a personal relationship with God.
Yeah.
It was very corporate. Like, we pray corporately, but it wasn't personal. And so what I think I've learned, I mean, I became a Christian. I say I'd been going to church, but I really wasn't a Christian until after that season in my life, I don't think. And came to know Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior. And I think then I had this idea in my head that prayer had to be probably based off that a little bit, a particular way, that I needed to have a set time in the day that I prayed, that it needed to be heartfelt and reverent and very proper in the way that I spoke to God. I did also have a prayer journal, and I would like set myself goals. Like, I'm going to pray and write my prayer for an hour. So I've got a couple of, if I could find those journals now, that would be pretty funny. I probably do have them somewhere.
Thus saith
the Lord. But they were very very much about praying for the proper things, like for my family and for this and for that and
world
for
peace.
world peace and like all of the things that you should pray for. And so I think that can get pretty tiring after a while to not have, it still wasn't really intimate. It wasn't there was no real relationship.
Substance.
There wasn't a whole lot of substance to it. It was just what I thought I should do.
I mean, I guess that was a good place to start.
It's a great place to start.
You didn't know where else to start, right?
Yeah, but I think because I started there, it probably got stale.
Yeah.
And I got over it.
Yeah.
And so I had to really go on a journey, and I am still on the journey to work out what real intimate personal prayer was. And I can honestly say that some of my best prayer times are when I just let go of all my preconceived ideas about what my prayer should sound like. And I just talk to God as if He's right next to me, right here in the room, like as close as you guys are. And we are just having a conversation, or sometimes I'm just like pouring out my concerns or my worries or my the challenges that are happening in my life, or I can honestly say that they're some of my best times when I'm not thinking so much about what I should say and I'm more just praying from a place in my soul that is connecting directly with God, and my spirit, my soul and my spirit that's connecting directly with God. And that took me a long time to get to that place. There's been a bumpy road to get to there.
I think it would be rare for someone to like get saved and arrive really quickly at that point though, right? I think some people do.
I think some people do.
But a lot of people don't.
It also depends how you're discipled.
That's true. But like for someone to have the expectation maybe to just arrive straight at, like it's been a journey, it's been life, it's been years, like relationships develop over long periods of time. And sometimes there's moments with people that you haven't had a long friendship with. Yeah. That there's a particular moment that forges a closeness in a short amount of time.
Absolutely.
That like people that have a that kind of relationship straight off the bat might have had. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. There's lots in between that, obviously, which might come out more later. But yeah, I think that the most important thing for me about prayer is that I'm honest with God, that I know He hears those prayers, even if I feel they're unanswered. That's another whole story. But I know that He's hearing them. I know that He cares, and I know that He wants me to just be myself around Him. Yeah.
That's cool. I think that would really help a lot of people. Like I think just hearing your story or your journey, like, would help people. Just go, I recognize that, and I want to end up at that point. Like, what about you? How was your prayer journey?
My prayer journey?
I don't know. Like, we're all still.
I guess a similar starting point to Jess in that I was raised attending Anglican church, went to a Catholic school.
Yeah.
Did you have to do the rosary?
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee.
There we go.
Rosary.
I could do the whole thing, but I'll pause there.
We can do the whole thing.
Blessed is thou blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now, at the hour of our death. Amen.
Oh, that brings back memories.
So many memories. The Lord's Prayer, all of those things. And the easiest way to summarize my prayer journey is that it's been learning how to have a relationship.
Yeah.
And not a ritual.
That's so good. That's a really, I think that's
excellent.
a great way to.
And so I think about the best relationship I have in my life with Rach, my wife. That started like all of us, right? The first kind of coffee date it's like quite formal,
Yep.
It's often the same in building and establishing and growing a relationship with Jesus. I think we forget that. I think we kind of take it out of the box of a relationship and we put it in another box that we're not sure then what that box is labeled, but we try to say it's got to have certain things in that box, but it's like, actually, it's a relationship. It will probably start a little formal, a little rigid.
Yep, totally.
Maybe some written prayers are a good starting point. There's no real right or wrong way to pray.
Yeah.
Prayer is an invitation into a relationship with Jesus. And so exploring what that looks like for you, I've probably learned even more recently. There's definitely been some markers along the way. It's a marker where I probably learned that not all my personal prayer time needed to look, feel and sound like a corporate prayer time.
Yeah.
Not yelling.
I've had to learn that one.
Yeah, there was the marker where I went from learning that prayer didn't have to sound like prayer in the Anglican church. It could sound like prayer in the Pentecostal church. So there's been key moments of, I guess, revelation or realization that there's different facets to it. The value of silence in prayer.
Yeah.
Like there would have been a time in my prayer journey where I would have been stoked on the idea that I'm now saying that prayer is talking to Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a great song about that and that I love. But it's not just talking to Jesus.
Yeah.
Because if I just talked to my wife all the time, never let her talk, like there was no listening involved, it would be a very one-sided relationship. And so I'm realizing actually that space in my time that I'm connecting with is actually also really important in my prayer life.
Yep.
And so I'm allowing myself now to bring in more of what I know are relational or good relational components, time together, yes, talking, yes, honesty. I remember when I realized I could, probably similar to you, coming out of quite a rigid and a formalized approach to prayer, that I had to say things the right way to God, that my prayer had to be quite, I couldn't ever swear in prayer.
Like eloquent.
You know?
Wait, you can swear in prayer? No, it's good. I like this. I've sworn in prayers.
You gotta be real.
I have sworn in prayer.
It's been real.
I can honestly say I've never sworn in prayer.
Give it a try.
No, I'm not going to. I will not try that.
No, but
Let
I
our
think
listeners be known.
there was a point for me where I went through different writers would describe it as different things, but there was a point in my life where my faith just started to crumble kind of around me. A whole series of circumstances over the space of it was probably the space of 3 or 4 years. I got to the point where I was like, I don't know what I believe about God at all. Rach sat me down. We were on holidays and she's like, do you believe this? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you believe this? I don't know. And she asked me like kind of a series of more and more. We were digging down through the layers, right, of what we put on top.
Yeah, right.
And she got to the point of, do you believe there's a God? And I'm like, yes. That I can say with absolute certainty. For me personally, I don't care what anybody else in the world says. I believe there's a God.
Yeah.
And kind of rebuilt things from there and realized, well, actually it's personal. I can talk like I talk. I can talk to him, you know, and that changed my prayer life radically to realize I can just talk to God. And then, there's been other things. There was receiving a gift of praying in tongues and working out where does that sit in my personal, how does that, and again, with a relationship, not every date night with your wife needs to look the same.
Yeah.
Sometimes the restaurant is great. Sometimes a walk on the beach is great. Sometimes just sitting together, not saying anything is great. And so I have realized that prayer is much bigger than one expression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's been about giving myself a freedom to discover my relationship with Jesus, where sometimes it might look like I'm praying in tongues for half an hour and that's really, I am 100% connecting with God. There's something on that today. Yeah. But the next day I try to do it and it's like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm making up sounds with my mouth. This is a grind. Like this isn't working what I need to do. There's no flow, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing. What I need to do is stop and sit in silence because that's what God wanted to do with me in that point of connection. Yeah. Sometimes I just need to tell him how I'm feeling. Yeah. This sucks and this isn't working. And God, like I'm stressed. I got this, and this going on. Like, there's no formula. It's a relationship. It's a relationship. And we learn about different tools. We learn about different skills, relational skills. And I think they all find their place in our prayer life, our time connecting with God. So my journey's been very much a journey of discovering that it's relationship and discovering tools that help that.
Yeah.
And probably wanting to come away from a time that I would say this is my prayer time, coming away feeling like God and I have connected.
Yeah, right.
So sometimes that's quiet, sometimes that's tongues, sometimes that's me talking, sometimes it could be a whole lot of things. But the key for me now is not I've prayed. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
I did my prayer time.
I did 1 hour of prayer.
Which is, I mean, this is one of the questions I've got down here. It should be good to get into. And I guess we're hearing your stories, like we've started to kind of unpack some of this stuff. But is there a wrong and right way to pray? You know what I mean? Like we're talking about, you guys are at the point in your journey where there's this freedom to discover. Some people might be like, well, I need to make sure I'm just at least praying. So I need to set myself the goal of spend 10 minutes with God in the morning. Yeah. Otherwise I'm not going to prioritize it. You know, like I guess that's helpful to a degree. But is there a wrong and right way to pray?
The short answer is no. There's not a wrong and a right.
I will
way
say
to pray,
before, as
right?
long as it's to Yahweh,
I mean,
the one true God of Israel.
I said there's no wrong way to pray. So I probably can't renege on that now. But there's probably some nuance that I would add.
Well, that's right. There's no right or wrong way to pray, but there are some boundaries around that, or some nuance, if you want to say that.
I'm sure, surely there is.
Like like you said, we're praying to God. We're not praying to somebody else. We're not praying to the person down the road or the nature or whatever
The universe.
We're not praying to the universe.
We're not doing that. So we should be praying to God, to Jesus, to the Holy Spirit. Like that is
the God of the
God.
Scriptures.
Yes, the God
I could
of the
imagine
Scripture.
there are some people who pray to a God created in their own image and their own opinions.
Yeah.
And that God will validate their own opinions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to make that clear because I know people who are like, I'm like, well, Scripture says this, and they're like, oh, but that's not what the Holy Spirit's told me. I'm like, well, you're not talking to the Holy Spirit. You're talking to something or someone else because that's God's clear in His Word. Like He's expressed who He is in His Word. So you're not talking to Him because it's a contradiction in who He said He is. So there is some nuance, I guess.
There is.
Yeah, I think again, trying to explain it in a way that I think is super, because sometimes prayer can be a little bit like, oh, that's just how do we frame it? But framing it in the frame of the most important relationship you have, right? And for me, that's my marriage relationship. If I walked into a restaurant and spent time with Rach and I treated her like she wasn't that important, that's not going to go super well.
No.
If I was constantly distracted on my phone, that's not going to build a great relationship.
No.
Well, it's not real conversation, is it? A real prayer,
And so
if we're talking prayer.
there's no wrong way to pray, but there's different approaches in prayer will contribute to different levels of intimacy in your relationship.
Totally. Yeah, that's great.
You can chalk off some throwaway lines while you're in the car, but are you really building a relationship?
Yeah.
And this is why it's not a practice, right? Because if it's just a practice, I can tick it off. I can formula the practice. I can, all these things, and there's no depth. There's no authenticity. There's no substance. And you can do the same with your relationship with your wife or whatever. You can treat it like it's not important, so you won't actually set aside time.
Yeah.
That's right. And God knows the posture of our heart. right?
Absolutely.
He knows whether we're coming to Him because we feel like we have to tick the box off for the day, or because we actually genuinely want to connect with Him, our Father, like the Creator. He is all things, and there's this like desire that arises in honest and real prayer, genuine prayer.
Have you ever felt like not praying? Like I'm
100%.
keen to hear a story or a moment. You don't have to share a story, obviously, it's probably personal, but like a moment where in your journey where you're like, I should be praying, but I don't want to. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't have that.
No,
like,
100%.
It's like, I desire to
I'm going to be
spend time
super
with the
honest
Lord.
with all of you right now.
Huh?
I feel like I'm going to shock you, Simo.
Shock
Prayer
us.
for me is a choice every single day. I have a deep desire to connect with God, and that's why it's a choice that I make every day.
Yeah, totally.
But I'm not one of those people that prayer comes easy. And I feel like there are some people who they have a gift of just being able to like connect really quickly and easily to God. Like it's just a natural, this is what we do. And I think the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. So don't get me wrong. The more I am in communion with God, which I would say prayer is a part of that, the more I do pray, because it almost becomes a default. Like something's going on in my life and I go to God. Like that's what I do. But I would say every day there are moments in my day that I would need to choose to pray, because it's not, and it's hard. And particularly in the moments where things are maybe a little bit more difficult. Actually, I know for some people that would be an easier time to pray. And maybe the same for me. Like I would go to God and express whatever's going on in my world and, the challenges. then you've got the days that things are going really well, and it's a choice in those days to be like, oh, actually my day's going pretty well. That's right. Why are you going to God? Is it for relationship, or is it because you think he's a genie that's going to fix all your problems?
And I think that's part of the journey though. Like, I think that's not like, oh, you're bad if that's happened. I think it's like, it's healthy to see, oh, is there a pattern? Do I only go to God when things are terrible? Maybe I should try going to him when things are great. Yeah. And expand my prayer life and my relationship with God into those realms. It's like, like it's fantastic to go to God when things are terrible, but it's healthy to go, oh, maybe I should.
Yeah. And it's where the habits are important, right? It's where our what we do every day becomes so
Do you have
necessary.
an everyday habit? Like, do you have a set thing that you do?
No, I don't think I have a set. Like, I do pray first thing in the morning.
Yeah, you're like, I have. Morning's your time.
I really try to, again, some days is hit and miss. Like some days I get up and I'm running late and, that's it. I do love to pray in the car. So because I find that I'm sitting and I'm usually on autopilot wherever I'm driving to. And so I find
that's another topic of conversation.
Yep, another topic of conversation. But I do really like to pray in the car as well. Yep. So I feel like the older I get, the more constant my prayer is through the day, no matter what anyway.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I think I would once upon a time have looked back and been like, oh my gosh, I only prayed for, 30 seconds today. And now I can probably say I would pray like on and off throughout the day. Yeah. Whatever's going on.
Yes, so it's not confined to just
sometimes
this window in the morning.
Please, Lord Jesus, help me right now. I'm in a moment. I really need your help.
Yeah.
Pastor Nate's planning another weird preaching series. Help me, Jesus.
I miss that.
But other times it's just I just feel like there's a connection to God.
Yep.
And you just stop and you're just like, oh God, I just love you.
Do you have a habit? Do you have a set routine?
I have had habits that have changed often seasonally.
Yeah.
And I find every time a seasonal change occurs, I struggle to rebuild the habit.
Yeah,
Having kids changes that big time, I reckon.
Like getting married.
Different jobs.
Different job.
Yeah, the way that
I remember when I had
work.
to be out of the house an hour earlier, my habit looked different then. So yes, any changes that affect kind of your life routine is going to have an impact. You've got to carve out again, and that takes intentionality.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I do find that when you lose it and you lose it for a bit, it's harder.
Yeah.
It's harder to kind of dig out that habitual ridge in your life, that track of your life. And again, but that's like any relationship. Talk to someone for a while. That first conversation again is like, it's a little bit awkward, kind of like you're refinding yourself.
I think some people struggle in that wrestle. Like, they got that feeling like, oh, I don't feel like praying, which is our flesh. Our flesh doesn't. Our flesh is corrupted to some degree. Like
it wants to sleep.
It wants to sleep in. It wants to be distracted on social media.
Watch a TV show instead of taking half an hour to connect with God.
I don't have time to pray, but I'll binge.
3 hours of Netflix.
Some TV show, like, come on. Like, our flesh rails against, like, but we recognize in ourselves, like, our spirit is like, but I want to. It's that kind of where Paul talks about his wrestle. I don't do the things that I want to do, but I do the things that I don't want to do. We recognize that, but I think some people, in that wrestle, people are like, oh, but I should feel like I want to.
Should.
Do you know what I mean? Like, but if I don't feel like I want to, but then I make myself do it, is that religious? I feel people struggle with this. I have a
love-hate relationship with the word "should." My psychologist once said, you should just never do anything for should.
Yeah, you should never do anything.
You should never do it. Never say never.
I'm confused. Should I go see a psychologist? I said, I'll go to the psychologist and I'll be like, I felt to myself I should come see you, and they're like, you shouldn't should anything if you don't should. And I'm like, Dr. Zeus is
in the house.
Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent.
Right. It's good. We needed some lightness. We're getting real light, real heavy.
Getting intense.
I didn't have my producer to make me smile.
Sorry. Smile.
There's the time.
I'm back.
You should smile.
But if you want a healthy marriage, there's things you should do,
It's true, yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes we have, in an effort to not put an unhealthy burden on people, to not make people feel guilty, which is
Yeah.
often the result, right?
Yeah,
When we're like,
totally.
hey, you should pray more. People are like, oh, now I just feel guilty, like I'm never doing enough, and blah, blah, blah. And I've been there. You hear people like, I get to go to conferences and people get up and they're like, oh, I had a 3-hour Bible study today. And I'm like, cool.
I don't believe them.
Awesome.
I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't believe those
Surely
people.
not 3 hours
Well,
straight.
come on,
right?
mate.
Yeah, but
You're having yourself on.
But Paul says that actually there's a guilt that is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
it's a conviction, right?
if you've got a, I know I keep leaning to this, but it's the real world example, and sometimes it can be easier to
Yep.
explain things in a real world example
Yeah.
than the spiritual realm that we don't. But if you're like, oh, my marriage isn't very good, we don't have any time for a date night, but you're just sitting on the couch watching 3 hours of Netflix,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
make some change.
There's some things that
If
you
you
can
care
actually
enough,
do.
This will be the bit that people might want to skip over. But if you care enough about the relationship,
Yeah.
you'll make change. You'll make time. You'll carve out space. Like at the end of the
Totally.
day, it does come down to choice and discipline. And sometimes we don't like to hear that.
Yep.
We like to hear that there's an easier route, and I've just got to keep looking until I
Yeah.
find the easy route. No, there is actually no easy route.
A prayer tablet.
This is a relationship. This is a relationship. It takes intentionality, and it
Yeah.
takes discipline.
Yeah. Yep.
In the same way that building a good marriage or a good friendship, you've got to book in time together.
Yeah.
And you've got to book in quality time together. I like Rach and I text each other all the time through the day. Like we're constantly, texting about this or texting about, and I love that. It's like that constant prayer to God. But that comes in addition to a little bit of quality time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like, it's not one or the other. It's both and all.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
But without the quality, without that initial, and I don't want to be sitting here being like everyone's got to have an hour of prayer every morning, blah blah blah.
No, that's not helpful.
No,
is
you
it?
have to find quality time though.
Yes.
Somewhere you have to find and carve out quality connection with
Yeah.
God. Otherwise, your relationship won't actually be that good.
That's right. Like you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't sit there in one
Totally.
breath and like, oh, I don't make an effort to spend any time with God.
Yeah.
And then go, oh, I don't feel God. I don't feel close to God.
not connected, yeah.
There's an awesome John Mark Comer.
Quoma quote.
I'm going to say the same thing now. It's in my head. John Mark Comer quote where he says, God he's not opposed to effort. He's opposed to earning.
Yes.
Like God's cool with effort.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
put some effort in. He's cool with that. Just don't think you're not earning his love through it. You're not earning his
That's
favor.
right.
You're not earning your salvation through prayer.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, and I think that's a really cool distinction. Like because it takes effort when you wake up
it
and
does.
to make some routine and
Absolutely.
like we don't talk
It's
about.
not easy.
We've lost. It used to be called the spiritual disciplines.
Yeah.
Prayer, the word,
Yeah.
and what was the third one? Like, there's probably heaps of them, but like going to church,
Fasting,
There's
tithing.
yeah.
is like some key ones.
Sabbath.
You know what I
like
mean?
those,
Sabbath.
yeah.
Yep.
There's heaps, but those three were the key that you'd share with like a new believer. Like do these things, this will kind of keep
Yeah.
you good.
Go to church.
Yeah,
Did we say that one?
yeah,
Yeah.
that was the third one, I think. But we don't. Yeah, like you said, we shy away from the idea. Oh, it's a discipline.
Oh, don't put pressure on me.
Yeah.
You
But you're right. It does take some effort.
Yeah, and it will be an individual journey. What works for Nate, what works for
Totally.
me, what works for you is different. And finding the thing that works for us it takes effort. It takes trial and error. It takes, actually, it really didn't work well in the morning. I was like basically falling asleep every time.
I'll fall asleep
for me,
so
it's
many
at
times.
night. If
So
I
do I.
tried to do that at night, Ben and I used to pray before bed and I would be asleep before like he'd even said, "Dear Jesus," I'd be gone.
There was a time when
So
I was
that's not a good one
I was
for
getting
me.
up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd go downstairs, getting coffee, and like I remember sitting in the chair and I'd have my Bible, like just like I don't feel super spiritual or anything like
yeah.
this, but I'm like coming to spend time with the Lord. I'm like, all right, open up my Bible and I'm reading. As I'm reading, reading just
Hezekiah
puts me
was
to
the
sleep,
father
right?
of Jehoshaphat.
And like I love the Bible,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah.
I'm tired, and I remember just
sorry.
like going, you know my heart, Lord. And I just remember that I was just, I was like, sorry, I just can't. I'm trying.
But equally as important, right? It's when you find you are getting distracted. If you like are in the car and you're distracted by the person that's driving badly in front of you, don't.
All the time. So many bad
It's the work
drivers.
that God is doing in Nate right now. But if you are getting distracted by by what's around you, which, you know, hopefully you're concentrating on the road as well, but then don't pray in the car.
Don't close your eyes.
Don't close your eyes.
You got to
But don't
find
pray
what
that-
works for you,
You've got to
right?
find what works for you. And it might be that you are not somebody who can pray for an hour in one go. And that is okay. Some people can't do that. Some people prefer to pray when they walk or when they run. Great, do that. Some people like to pray for 10 minutes at a time and then have a break, go away, do something, come back, do it again. Like whatever works for you, just try something.
I just imagined praying out loud while running.
I'll try to. I end up panting. Jesus.
But imagine like someone coming past you while that's happening. They're just, oh my gosh, what's going on
No,
here?
so I've worked out a way. Guys, I've worked out
You
a way.
can run and pray?
No, I can
You've
walk
got
and
running-
pray though
you've got
out
prayer
loud.
pills.
With
Oh,
your
okay.
earphones in?
Yeah,
and they think you're on the
earphones in.
phone?
People think I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
I
Don't
like
have a problem
that.
with
That's
it.
cool.
And
Yep.
it's the same as in the car. I could be praying my little heart out and I can be like really
Eyes
going for
open.
it. People think
Eyes
eyes
open
open,
prayers.
eyes open.
Car's good.
But people think I'm like
See, I
talking to someone on the
can't pray in the car.
phone. Yeah, I
I've
love
had
it.
some of the most powerful times with God
same.
in my car.
In my
Because
car.
I can't be distracted by anything. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like half my brain is like my ADD brain's like preoccupied by
Yeah.
driving a car
I
so that I can actually focus
That's a
and
bit like
spend
me
time
with
with
running.
God.
Over that, not that it's been, I haven't done this far in a while, but I used to be like after the 5K mark, I was in a certain rhythm and I was in a certain level of sort of like pain in a way, you
Yeah.
know, like you're okay, long run here.
I don't know what that feels like, but yeah.
Then my mind was open and I would get more out of a podcast
Oh, yeah.
in that zone
Totally.
than in any other space in my life.
Yeah.
I feel like God would talk to me about heaps of stuff.
Yeah.
And also I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
I couldn't talk back because I was running. So it was all almost like a listening
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
I used to find out that He would speak so much to me
Yeah.
in those times. More so than say get up. And I do try to get up in the morning. Again, season of life, like that works. So young kids, it's kind of my only alone time. And it sucks. I hate the morning. I'm not a morning person. So this is where it's like, it's not enjoyable. It's a discipline. I've had to find ways of like opening the blinds so there's light in my eyes. Like I start by the Bible.
Look at the sun.
But what was I saying? Yeah, like that was a listening time for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember at Presence Conference one year. This kind of changed my view of prayer a little bit, into like expanded it, I guess. Delirious were playing,
Oh, yeah.
and oh my gosh, how good
That was a
Love
banger
that.
conference. I remember being
Love
down like
It was
the front for that.
downstairs for the youth. Oh, and I think Martin Smith might have pointed to the drummer
Yes.
and told him to do like a solo or something.
yeah.
And then you remember this?
I remember this,
And
yeah.
then he goes, and then Martin Smith said to the crowd, he goes, "I bet you didn't know you could pray through your drums." And I was like, "Oh," and it just kind of like something, like it just kind of expanded my view of prayer.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I pray when I just tinker on my guitar at home, but
Dabble. Just
I dabble.
dabbler.
I just dabble.
Dabbler.
Yeah, I just dabble. But I really enjoy it because I feel like I pray through playing my guitar in a way that is, I'm not using words, but as I play the guitar, like I feel like I'm
totally.
communicating or handing stuff over in my soul to God as I play.
Yeah.
And it's just a way, it's a way I pray with God.
Yeah,
and
it's
I don't just
beautiful.
pray like that. Like in my car, I'll pray out loud and stuff like that. But I think there are so many ways to pray.
There is.
And it's connecting with God. Like if we were to summarize
Yeah.
it all up, prayer is connecting with God.
Communicating. Yep.
It's not your laundry list. It's not. It's also listening. It's just being within a room, like you're saying.
Yeah, it's
like with our
praise, it's
partners and stuff.
supplication, it's so many different aspects to prayer.
I think I remember, and this could totally not. I might have ripped this off somewhere, or heard someone, but I thought of prayer as like a bag of golf clubs. Like there's different.
Yeah, right.
I might have shared this before, but like sometimes there's prayer that's like I'm praying for my family. I'm praying for a breakthrough. So I'm like getting my golf and I'm like
Get the driver.
I'm getting the driver out. Like this is the kind of prayer I'm praying with right now, and I'm
I'm just
driving
getting out of
this
club because
thing.
I don't know what I need for that.
Or like
I don't play golf, guys.
or the
This
putter.
one? Well, this one too.
like,
It's just like getting to get your ball out of the water scoop.
It's possible, guys.
so this isn't
It's
working for you.
possible. No.
This image isn't.
But good for all those who it is working for.
Well, I'm going to
Well
write a
done.
book. It's
Yeah.
about golf and prayer. I don't, whatever. I don't play golf. But if you could, what is that?
Hello.
Oh, we're getting out. We're getting out. Getting
That's
our
time
buzzer.
to wrap up. All right. Lightning rounds to
Lightning
finish
rounds.
things up.
Go.
Lightning rounds.
Yep.
For people listening,
Yep.
what would you say are your top 3 things, and they've got to be short and sharp,
Oh gosh.
just to help
good
people
at this.
maybe. Oh, let's just say it's 1, so you don't have to think of 3.
Great.
Your top thing, just help people maybe revitalize their prayer life. Maybe they've just been in a funk. Maybe they haven't been connecting with God or whatever. What's something they can do to reignite that, get kicked back in the gear?
You're first.
Hospital pass.
It's you. Go.
Take it. Review it as a relationship, and what would you do to reconnect with your wife?
Yep. My thing would be real. Just be real with God. Whatever is on your heart, have a conversation with him about if the weather's annoying you, then that, or what's going on at work, or whatever is going on. Just talk to him.
Yeah.
And then stop. Once you've done that, just stop. Give yourself 30 seconds to just be with God and not say anything.
I like that. There's periods. I like that. That's good. I think my top thing would be don't delay. Like clear
Yep.
the decks and connect with God, and do it in a real way that's just like, I haven't talked to you for ages, God.
Yeah.
But like, don't kick that can down the road. Like,
Yeah.
clear the decks.
Yeah, this is an
Make
important
time.
one.
Because God will meet you there. Like,
Yeah.
he'll meet you there.
Yeah, he will.
And you don't want to delay that. So don't. And he loves you. He wants to be with you more
Yeah.
than you want to be with him, kind of thing. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so much more we could talk about prayer, and we're going to keep talking
Heaps.
about prayer in the next
Yep.
couple of pods until we feel like talking about something else.
Great.
But it's been awesome to have you
Thanks
with us,
for having
Jess,
me.
and Pastor Nate's always with us. So
Always a pleasure.
thanks for showing up again.
It's always fun.
It is always fun.
And you smiled so many
I know
times.
you're both about to
So proud of you.
go off and like have some intense prayer time,
Intense prayer time. Yep, I'm on
which
my
is
way.
really cool, which is really powerful. So cool. Let's leave it there.
All right.
Great. Hey, Simo, I'll get you the cup again for me. Awesome. Great.
Such a Mozzie.
Is this going to be the start of the podcast?
No, I think I'll use when I'm shouting at you accidentally.